Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Bruce?
Lionel?
Bruce?
Lionel, do you realize what time it is? It's like not normal time, so I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, that's right.
Why are we meeting at such a not normal time? What could be such a important that we're doing that?
Well, should we tell people that we kind of have a regular time that we start podcasts, or should we just keep that to ourselves?
Or is that part of the mystery?
Yeah.
No, I think they should. We usually have regularly scheduled podcasts when we record, and this is not a regular scheduled recording time. So, but I think it's not a regular time to accommodate one of our guests, if I'm correct at that.
Exactly. Yeah. So most podcasts take place in the evening because usually we're dealing with people in the Eastern time zone or Central, and so you and I, Bruce, we will start the podcast later so that if it's somebody that's farther west, that they don't have to start too early.
We've done that, yes.
Yeah. So there's a kind of a generally the podcasts are done in the evening. Generally, they start before 9 p.m. How about that?
Yes. Yeah, 8:37 p.m.-ish.
Ish is a standard time, absolutely.
Heavy on the ish.
Heavy on the ish, yeah,
Yes.
because one of us, and I don't want to name names, evil overlord, doesn't particularly care for being for times or being places at a certain time. So we're always heavy on the ish.
Yes.
But it's always 8:30 p.m.-ish sharp.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're doing this podcast in the afternoon Eastern time because one of our guests, and I'm not so sure he's a guest anymore. Gordy, would you consider yourself a guest now on the podcast? You've been on an awful lot, or are you a semi-regular?
I don't know. Probably a semi-regular.
Yeah, semi-regular. Yeah, exactly. If there's anything, when people ask me, what's Gordy like as the president of the NMRA? I say, well, he's semi-regular.
That's a compliment.
You can take brand for that, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Brand muffins are the way to go. So Gordy lives in Orkney, which is on the north coast of Scotland, which is 5 hours behind Eastern Daylight Time or Eastern Standard Time. And Gordy, most of the time, I can say to Gordy, hey, we want to do a podcast about X. And I'll say, can we start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time? And he'll go, sure, which is 12:30 midnight. And Gordy's always like, yeah, sure. So then I thought, well, I'm not doing anything today, so let's maybe try to get going a little bit earlier for Gordy's sake. So that's what we're doing. So it's actually...
I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. Gordy, I appreciate you being here, buddy.
Thanks, Lionel.
And also, we have another member of the board of directors from the NMRA, our John Doring, who is, what is your post there, John?
Eastern District Director.
Eastern District Director. And you're new to the board, am I correct?
Yeah, just coming up on a 1-year anniversary.
But both you guys have about as much more enthusiasm than anybody I think I've ever met for the NMRA. So, John, you had written a really good email. Let me see if I can find it. I know I can find it because I keep all my emails. And I'm going to scroll down. Bruce, do you mind if we do one email kind of out of order?
Well, that's fine. Because until you told them it's not in order, nobody knew.
That's true, right? I should have just kept the big...
You edit that part out, nobody will be none the wiser.
Yeah. Oftentimes off the air, Bruce will say, can you just keep your big yap shut?
Yeah.
So anyways, John wrote, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's pretty long, but he says, cheers, I hope you are well. I've been working on some ideas for a while now to put together a list of things I believe about the NMRA, and more specifically about how I think we could all work to approach the association, the hobby, and each other. I accelerated this listening after I accelerated this thinking after listening to recent shows about the Indie Junction Convention, which was really good. We got to get Scott Kramer back on, and the St. Louis Convention, and other comments and perspectives shared by others of the NMRA. I hope that my take is a little different and even a bit contrarian or controversial. My view is that if we're going to be successful in growing the NMRA and in making it more visible and relevant in the hobby, we're going to have to take a stronger stand about who we are and who we aren't, and then defend that turf with passion, action, and love. So I offer here my list of working ideas, very much in progress, blah, blah, blah. And that was thanks for all you do, blah, blah, blah. Great. And this is a great, really, have you seen this, Gordy, or is this all news to you, or?
Which bit? Nothing's news to me.
All right. Well, John's list of 10-point manifesto, which he included in this email.
Oh, I have a feeling we discussed it before the email went out.
Okay. Excellent. So both you guys are like, John, tell us a little bit about yourself, because you haven't been on the podcast as much. You were on once before, at least. Were you on more than that before?
Just once, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your background with the NMRA and how you got involved.
Well, I've been a member for a dozen years or so now. As I was approaching my 50th birthday, it occurred to me that if I didn't get started in learning and building something in the model railroading world, I was never going to get there, because I'd been dreaming about it all my life. And actually, I was exposed to the NMRA as a pretty young fella. I think I was 12 or 13 when I first heard about the NMRA, and I think my experience is a little bit like Gordy's, in the sense that some caring people took me under their wing, sort of showed me what was possible. And this was the first time I'd ever even realized that adults were in model railroading, that it wasn't just a hobby for kids. And one of those guys, a guy named Les, said to me, there's this thing called the NMRA, and it's where all the serious modelers are, and you're going to want to join that someday. And they've got this thing called the Master Model Railroader. And as a young person, even without understanding what any of that meant, it just captured my attention and my imagination. And I thought right then and there, I'm going to be an MMR someday. Although, again, I didn't know what that meant at all. And then fast forward through life, and I came back to it many, many years later. So I've been a member for a dozen years now. I kind of stumbled into volunteering, like I think a lot of us do, at the division level. Eventually got on the division board, and I'm in the hub division, which is in the Boston, Massachusetts area. I stood for the region board and ran for a vice president, and then the president stepped down. So suddenly, I kind of, on an accelerated pace, I found myself a president of a region, the Northeastern region. I did that for 6 years. And then the opportunity to kind of get onto the national board sort of presented. And as you've alluded to, I think there are a group of us who have been like super interested in what could this really be? What could it become? How do we get out of some of the stuff that isn't so positive? And there just seems to be so much opportunity to sort of remake or level up the NMRA so that it's much more important and relevant and fun and just sort of a central part of the hobby, as I perceived that it once was, in the sort of golden days. So anyway, I don't know if that's enough, but that's kind of how I got to here. It's been sort of a pretty wild ride for me, from no involvement to now being on the national board.
Yeah,
right.
Were you had some offices in the regional board, right? Or regional? You held some offices in the region, right?
Yeah. Well, I was the president of the Northeastern region for 2 terms. In fact, I had to resign that spot in order to sit on the national board. I was also the editor of the Northeastern region newsletter for 4 years. That's a cool job to have, because you get connected to so many people, and you meet lots of people, and you sort of just get into the stream of knowing what's going on. So, I went from, in a matter of a few years, I went from a pretty introverted, shy person who could go to a train show and not know anybody to having several hundred friends in this hobby. As we've all kind of experienced this sort of social connection. So yes, I've worked at the division board, at the region board, and now on the national level.
And the two of you guys, I don't know if I should. I don't know what got me excited. Should I say it, Gordy, about what got me excited when we were talking? We were messaging back and forth.
Yeah, I think you should.
Okay, so Gordy and I were talking, messaging back and forth, and then Gordy says to me, we want to grow the membership of this organization to like 150,000 people. When I said to him, you're nuts. That's not doable. And Gordy insists that it is. And then we talked about having you and Gordy on because both you guys have this great enthusiasm for this organization where you want it to expand beyond basically our wildest dreams. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I think what you're saying there's an important truth in kind of acknowledging that on the one hand you can both dream about something that's, as we talk about, sort of 10x what we are today, and also kind of say that's impossible, that can't happen. And here's how I connect those two together. There's no way we could be 150,000 if we continue to be the organization that we have been. So when we talk about 10x, it implies a whole bunch of stuff, but what it basically implies is dreaming up something different, something new, something much, much better. And when I first met Gordy, and that goes back 5 or 6 years ago now, we had this sort of moment where I said, "Oh, I'm thinking really big about this," and he said, "So am I." And I said, "I think we could have 50,000 members." And he said to me, "I don't think that's enough." So for a while now, we've been kind of talking about, why not, right? Certainly, I think my eyes have been opened over the last few years to just how much bigger this hobby is than I thought it was. Both in terms of the age demographic, which you've touched on many times, and in terms of the global reach. So the pool of potential modelers and members is way, way bigger than I thought it was. So I think I would agree that there's sort of no way we could do it unless we do something really different. And I'm sure that's where your head is too, Gordy.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Look, there's millions of model railroaders in the world. All pretty much want the same thing. And so if you were to able to, add value to our organization, tweak things, make things better, make the experience more equitable, then why wouldn't 1 million people want to be part of that if that's delivering what model railroaders want and need? So, yeah, it's about, I talk a lot with the national board and with regions and divisions about the 4 things that we as an organization need to start to do. And we are doing it. We just need to do it more at an accelerated pace. And that's really to be innovative, to learn from ourselves, but also to learn from what's going on around us, to focus on growth and growing ourselves, not just growing members or growing numbers on a page, but actually real growth of value, and sharing who we are, what we are, and what we can do. And if we do that, we've got a future. We've always done those things in the past, but done them the same way for a long time whilst the world around us moved. So we kind of stopped learning, we stopped growing ourselves, and we stopped sharing what we did because it wasn't resonating. So, that's not the whole solution here, but why as an organization can't we think big? Just literally today, we've just relaunched the what people call the youth policy, but it's actually called the at-risk persons policy, to reaffirm that we are not anti-young person. They're the future of our hobby, but we want to be involving families. We want the entire family involved in the hobby. My whole family is involved in model railroading, from the children to my father to my wife. We're all involved in model railroading. We share that hobby together. And, that's a modern family. We've got, all the modern mod cons in the house. It's not an old, not an old fashioned concept. That's been the case for years. So how can we make sure that our organization can attract all those future generations of model railroaders? And that's what me and John are really starting to think about. But in order to do that, as John says, you've got to start thinking, not what do I need to do now where I'm in the position where I've got X number of members, you need to start thinking, where do I want to be, and working your way back from it. How do I get there? And that's what we're doing.
You two guys know you're nuts, right?
Well, we wouldn't be on the national board if we weren't. Nobody, if you were sane, would volunteer to put in the, donate voluntarily the number of hours here. If we wanted, if I spent the same amount of hours in, directing towards growing my bank balance, my wife would probably be much happier. But, so there has to be a little bit of nuts involved in this somewhere.
Well, you know what I think, and I'm interested in your opinion too, Bruce, is like, I hear you guys saying this, and on the one hand, I'm like unbelievably excited that you guys are talking this way. And on the other hand, I'm thinking, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. And
so why?
Why not? And the best part would be if I'm completely wrong. That would be like, I'd be so happy to be wrong and see you guys do this. So obviously I'm going to do whatever I can to help, but not that I know what I would be. But I mean, the point is to have this much enthusiasm is kind of mind blowing for somebody like me who's been in the hobby since he was 5. Been a member of the NMRA probably since I was 12. My dad signed me up and the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's like, and, through the lean years we've been through over the last 30 years and now to see you two guys show up with this unbridled enthusiasm to take it to a new level, it's pretty exciting. But come on. I mean,
and something, I think we look at what has happened since Gordy was elected president. You look at the number of people we interact with on through the fans page on the Modeler Life and other ones in general. There is definitely a more enthusiasm for the NMRA. We're hearing from these people than I've ever seen before. Just last week, one of the guys is a regular on the Wednesday night chat and regularly participates on the fans page. He joined the NMRA for the first time in his life.
Yeah,
and I think we've seen others like they were members and they got out of it, and now they're coming back in. And I think, Gordy, that you have seen. I'm not sure what the latest number. There one time you said that since you had taken over, there've been like close to 500 new members in a rather short period of time. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're tracking to have our first growth year in 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
right.
it's all positive. It's how the organization's bouncing back out of COVID. I don't think we're out of the woods on that yet, but that's the short term. And, we're talking probably today about more the long term. But certainly the key thing is, I said this a lot, we're currently in a bit of what I called was a foundation year. So, a year of understanding, putting things right, looking at what's wrong, looking at the opportunities to grow the team in preparedness for year 2. Year 2 is about to start in about 6 weeks' time, and year 2 will be busier than year 1. I mean, in year 1, we've delivered all the back issues of the NMRA magazine onto the website. We've increased recognition for members 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years of membership. We've launched, obviously, the NMRA digital magazine, not a small project. We've updated all the outdated beginner guides on the website. We've provided more transparency to members. We've done more feedback and asked for more members' opinions on things. We've launched e-ballots. We're in the process of launching stuff for year 2. It's going on in the background, obviously. There's a lead time on things. So we've got a team looking at a new education program. And, year 2 is now about us looking at how do we ensure that anybody, wherever they are in the world, who joins our organization can have some equitability to that experience. Because if we can guarantee certain things are available to everybody, like the digital magazine, then we can manage that experience a little bit. Not that our divisions and regions don't work hard and don't provide a good experience, they do, but we know that only about 30% of our members attend a division meeting on a regular basis being at least once a year. So we know we need to do more if we're going to retain people. So we'll be launching next year a brand new education program that will be delivered online. We're going to launch the NMRA Interchange, which is an online communication platform, both text, video, and voice for all of our regions and divisions, for all of our members in the world. We'll connect every single NMRA member in the world if they want to be part of it in August. That's literally coming at St. Louis. And, we'll continue to upgrade and build the things that we need in the background to enable us to go to 150,000 members. And once we're ready to do that, which we will be within the end of my presidential term, we can reduce the membership fee with the confidence that we're going to grow the organization and we're going to bring in new members, because a lot of our costs are fixed costs. So if you spread the same amount of money across a greater number of donors, for want of a better word, a greater number of members paying member fees, you can reduce the member fees. But there's no point holding a fire sale, as people keep telling me, drop the fee to $15, drop the fee to $15. Everybody comes through the door, has a terrible experience, leaves, and I've bankrupted the organization in 2 years. What we need to do is make sure that those people coming through the door have such a good experience that they stay for, 10, 15, 20 years as a member of the organization. And not only that, they bring their family into it and they bring their friends into it. So that's what we're working towards. Once we've got it right, once that experience is nailed down when somebody comes through the door, we can easily... 150,000 is not as ambitious as we should be being.
Okay.
150,000 is conservative at that point.
Okay, I just have one comment and a question. I am amazed at the number of events you are doing via Zoom with various regions and divisions around the world. It's like every time I look around, here's Gordy, he's meeting with this division this morning, even though it's like 3 a.m. his time or something like that. It's certainly a function of the age we're in where this is possible, but I can't think of any previous presidents who, have put in such a appearance, literally getting in the face of as many members as they can. And, that, and like I say, that's part of the technology we're facing today and the way we're doing things now. And then the other thing, and I want to bring it up, we've seen the launch of the digital subscription for all members. There's quite a number who are whining and complaining that they don't want the magazine, but now they're being forced to take the magazine and their dues went up. I know you put out some explanation where the dues go, but these guys are fixated on the fact now they're forced to take the digital magazine and their dues are up and they're unhappy that way. What kind of approach can you take to kind of convince these guys that the digital magazine is a worthwhile thing, which I think it is, and give some justification, because all they're saying is that I'm getting the digital magazine now, and that's why my dues went up to $68 or whatever it is.
Before you answer, Gordy, I'd like to hear John's opinion on that before you answer, because I know you have answers, and I'm interested in John's opinion on that too.
You mean specifically about the dues in the magazine?
Yeah,
That seems to be the biggest contentious issue I've seen on the NMRA pages and other social media.
And I think it's important. Sorry to cut you off, John, but I think it's important to make sure that while Gordy's voice is doing a great job as Gordy's voice with his telling, I think it's important to people to start to realize that he's got people that are on the same page as he is. And John, you're one of them. So what's your opinion on this whole?
Well, I think this issue is just one of a number where I believe, and it's just my opinion, right? So, but I think I'm going to be in line with Gordy. I think that part of the challenge the NMRA has had is that if you try to please everybody every single day, you end up with trying to thread a needle where nobody's happy. And I think we've lost our mojo over the years because we didn't want to take a stand and do something or not do something for fear that not everybody's going to be perfectly happy. Now, I think Gordy will tell us that all of the data is coming back and saying overwhelmingly people are with us on this, but it doesn't mean everybody is. I'll tell you what my gut instinct is the dues went up $14 for the digital magazine. And if you don't think that's worth it, then I just don't see eye to eye with you. I mean, this is a hobby where it's easy. I'm at a show today and I've already dropped a couple $100 on stuff I don't need. And $14 for the year for a digital magazine. And you don't have to say it's sort of better than any of the for-profit publications or it's as good or anything like that. Does it have any value at all at that level? And I think that's a no-brainer. It's a duh.
When you do the math, it's not quite 4 cents a day.
Yeah, so it was $14 for the magazine. I think $4 for the 2-year inflation cost of living adjustment. I just, I think that's barking up the wrong tree. Now, what I do believe is that we need to constantly be listening to people, and instead of the fire sale kind of sort of path, I like the idea. Well, what do we need to do to increase the value of things? And because I think there's lots of opportunity there. But while there are a few people who didn't want the magazine, a lot of work went into getting to the place where we as a group decided we want everybody to have this magazine because we want to have this common platform for communication with each other. And when we had an option to opt out and 20 or 25% of members took that, then we didn't have the same connection with those people, which then erodes the value, right? And it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you could sort of opt out of everything that you don't think you want, then pretty soon you don't have anything and you don't have any more value. So I think we need to hold our ground, get people to try it. The digital magazine is great. The sort of ability to do that, and I just was looking at one on the airplane last night. I personally think the value is there, and it's sort of a head scratcher to me that anybody would get too wound up about that. I can't even buy one N-scale car for $14.
Yeah, that's the thing everybody's fixated on. It's $14 more, and I have to get this magazine. They're overlooking the fact that how many partners there are now that you can get discounts by buying merchandise from. If you partake in that, you're going to get your money, your value of your membership back 3-4 times over, depending on what you're buying. It's they're fixated on the fact now they're being forced to take something. I don't want it. It's costing me $14 a year more. Like, blah blah blah, and that's just the way they are. I think this magazine is great. I've been reading it, and I'm about to send in my request to stop the print version. I do have one nit on it. I will talk about later, but let's carry on. The other thing
that I would say is, and I've said all along is, and I believe, first of all, I don't think the number of people who are super wound up about this is all that high. But the other thing I take out of it is, honestly, for me personally, I still kind of like reading print magazines. It's just, sometimes my iPad doesn't kind of work and I have trouble with it. So, but I thought this was the most important step we could take in the last year, because we needed to communicate to the organization and to the whole world that we're capable of doing things that people say you can't do. And that, it become I think the magazine had become kind of a meme for, can the NMRA come into the 21st century or not? That's my take.
I think that's a really good point, is simply, is the NMRA capable of doing certain things? It's like, it sounds like your guys' plan is like, first let's make the NMRA seem hip and happening and modern, and once we got it working, then we're gonna go after the world and get 150,000 members. I mean, honestly, if you were able to double the membership, it would be astounding. So
if we could double the membership, we'd have put ourselves back to where we were in 1992. So that was the height of the NMRA. That was the maximum number of people ever in the NMRA. So that would be lovely, and if we could do that by the end of next year, it would be great. But we will.
Come on! Are you serious? You're gonna double?
We're not going to do it by the end of next year, but we could do it. We could do it by the end of this decade.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
If we could just.
But it's a type of thing though. Now it's going so good that it's like the old commercial for the shampoo or whatever. I told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends. All of a sudden, you got piles of people who are. Oh, the NMRA. Okay, well, I'll check that out.
Well, and
that's what happens.
And Gordy said,
cards comes down,
Yeah, and Gordy said, actually, Gordy said, about people saying make it $15, and I'm the one that's always going, well, my vision is, make it $19.95 a year, and you don't get much, but you're part of the umbrella where we all live, and so it's like, but Gordy's idea is like, let's make it so that people feel like they're getting something for their money, and then the bigger the organization grows, the less people need to pay. And
can I come in now?
What do you think?
Just want to
What do you think?
To Bruce.
What do you think, Bruce?
Yeah. I think he's been chomping on the bit long enough here, waiting to get in. I can just see him there. Let me in. I got him.
Let me in. 3 small points going all the way back to the first thing Bruce said to me. Attending Zoom meetings. You cannot change a process. You cannot change an organization unless you understand it. It's not a case of me flying a flag. It's literally a case of me going and observing and listening and asking and answering questions. I have to understand the organization in order to help it change. So that's why Gordy's going to all these Zoom meetings. It's not an approach people have followed in the past, I know, because the organization hasn't changed in the past. So the digital magazine, 2 points on that. Firstly, we knew that 5% of people didn't want us to do it. We knew that, but we knew 95% did. Because we've done it, the 95% are not going to scream and shout and say, you've not done it. So you're only going to ever hear from the 5% who are unhappy, of which I don't believe it will be 5%. I think it's a lot less than that. So certainly there's a lot of myths there that we've lost loads of members. We've grown. There's a load of myths there that people are not using a digital magazine. It's not true. They are. So it's making the progress that we wanted it to make. And the final thing was about the dues or the membership fee. If we doubled it, the number of members, your membership fee will be $34 maximum, because that's 68. That's the current amount that it costs divided by 2. Majority of our stuff is fixed cost, so maybe it'll be $35. Right? If we could double overnight the NMRA, we could reduce the membership fee next year to $35 instantly, because the costs are fixed. Majority of our costs are rent, printing. Printing's separate now. So the cost of the magazine, if you double the number of subscribers, $14 goes to $7, yeah. And then, the cost and everything is shared. There'll be some increase, obviously. There's some things that are not fixed costs, but the majority of the NMRA's costs are fixed. And so, you can, if you grow the organization, you can reduce your costs. I keep saying this to people, but as John and Bruce have both alluded to, we need to add more benefit, ensure we've got an equitable experience, but also make sure people know that the experience is available, because the partnership program is way underutilized. There's 50 partners there. You can make one purchase from one partner and get your membership fee back in reductions. Yeah. So it's there, but people don't necessarily use it. But
okay, here's the thought on that for you, Gordy. You got a convention coming up in St. Louis in a short period of time. How about presenting a clinic or having a session on the NMRA partnership program and explaining to everybody who all is involved, who you can buy from, and how much money you can save?
I mean, that'd be a great idea. It's something that's incorporated into my clinics, and I'll be doing multiple clinics with the president. Because it's only one of our benefits. I could talk about it for 45 minutes, but
right.
people will get bored of me. I'm quite passionate about it.
I have 2 questions, and I'm interested in both of your answers, because I see this first question as part of the problem for the NMRA. Is how do you guys plan on avoiding getting bogged down in the minutia? Because it seems like, see if I can explain this. Please, all of you, if you don't understand. But it seems like okay, like I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the website and it says download the app. On the front page it says download the app, and I don't want answers to this particular part of the question. I want answers to how do you not get bogged down in the minutia. So I'm sitting here. And I'm like, okay, download the app. Oh, okay, cool. Download the app on the App Store. So I click on that. Well, now I've got to enter my membership. I got to get in there by entering my membership and my password. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why wouldn't the app be on the free side of the website? Like, why would you have to be a member to download the app, right? To be encouraged to join the NMRA. So that's just a point. And I would love to have that answer, but I don't want it now, because the thing that I'm concerned about for you guys is how do you avoid getting bogged down in the minutia? Because it seems like every time we have a discussion about the NMRA. There's always somebody's got some point about, well, I think we should do this on that. And I think we should, like, how are you two guys going to, and the rest of the board members, I'm assuming, how are you going to look at the big picture and not get bogged down in what seems to be this daily NMRA minutia? Does that question make any sense?
Can I answer the first part of your question?
Sure.
The reason the app is there is because you have to be an NMRA member to use the app.
Okay.
And because that's part of your NMRA membership benefit is being access to the app to get the magazine, which is part of your membership fees.
But then as an example of what I'm saying, then we could have a discussion about, well, why isn't there an app that's just available to the general world so they could see the greatness of the NMRA? But no, you got to blah, 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 blah.
No,
and then you go off in this crazy, you get lost.
True.
All right. Well, don't be.
The app's in the App Store. You can download it, and there's a free issue. The April 2022 issue is available free for everyone. So that is available. It is open. People can just troll along and
But
find
then,
it.
that goes to my question though. How do you avoid getting, bogged down in this constant? Is it a model railroader thing, or is it a? And then, John, you seem to be very much into the thing of understanding the human psyche, and with your 10-point manifesto there, is it an NMRA thing, or is it just a general human thing where all of a sudden now we're bogged down because Lionel says, "Oh, I can't open the app." Well, all right, so he doesn't understand it. Like, how are you guys? I would go nuts. I would just go friggin' nuts trying to.
So if I can jump in and tell you what we do, and then John will be better talking to you about how you focus on vision rather than operations. So I head up the operations side of the NMRA, and the way that we do that is by having fantastic volunteers who take over working on those aspects of either those projects or answering members' questions. Yes, as the president, I get loads of questions, and yes, I answer some of them if I know the answer. But if not, I defer to one of our volunteers, and that's why in this year, the only goal, there was 2 goals given to each department head. So we have department heads, for example, IT is Speed Muller, and we have Riley Triggs, who runs our publications. So those department heads were given 2 tasks by me. 1, don't stop doing anything that you're doing for members. 2, grow your team because you're going to need more people. And so we've spent the whole year growing our team and bringing volunteers on board for various projects, various things, business as usual, new projects and ongoing projects. And so that's how we avoid getting bogged down into the minutia, because we have really, really good, strong volunteers who have got a lot of knowledge and experience in that specific area who will make sure things happen for us. We didn't have enough volunteers last August. We're kind of getting to a point where some of our departments now do have enough volunteers, but we still need more. But that's how we avoid getting dragged into every single little thing and become micromanagers. But I'll shush and let John tell you about vision versus operations.
Is your wife Alex beating your kids?
No, that's Annabelle, my daughter, running around. So the little man's only just learning to walk, and I've no doubt that they're practicing walking in the corridor. So
okay. Does Alex listen to these podcasts when you're on them?
I don't think so. But Magnus has him playing in his bedroom at night. It's my way of indoctrinating him into being a model railroader.
Hey, I have some very exciting news. Would you like to hear it? This is very exciting news.
Yeah, sure.
I just downloaded the NMRA app to my phone, and I'm now looking at it, and it is
fantastic.
It is very, very cool.
It will talk to you as well, The magazine, if you've got the Android app, it will actually read the magazine to you. You don't have to read it yourself.
That's true. Now, can I make my complaint about the Android app?
No, because then we're getting bogged down the minutia.
Just to finish on the Alex point a second. You did Alex listen to the podcast? She does listen to some, and when we go on road trips, she listens to them with me in the car. But actually, NMRA members have actually started writing and phoning her directly now, and asking her things and sending her things, and it's crazy. And people phone her up and say, "Tell Gordy he's doing too much," and stuff like that. It's quite funny, actually. The one good thing about model railroaders is we do look out for each other.
Well, that's something I think I want to talk to John about. But let's first, John, talk to me about how we're going to avoid getting bogged down in this minutia.
Well, the first thing that popped down into my head was I don't get bogged down in the minutia because I'm too lazy to do any of those detailed work. But I think the right answer is, and it's worth kind of reflecting on this because I faced the same thing when I became a region president. One of the challenges the National Association has had is there's just been too few people involved. This team has been too small. And when you have a small team and you sort of have each department is run by a manager who is, and that's all there is, then that person inevitably, to your point, gets bogged down in something which prevents them from thinking about something bigger. And when everybody's doing that all the time and you're only focused on, putting out fires or addressing the loudest voices or complaints, then pretty soon you get sort of beaten down and you lose the capacity to dream about doing anything. And so Gordy's sort of ask of all the people on the operations team to build their staff is really a super important move, kind of a profound move. I'll give you an example. I've been involved with just one of those departments. We have a department that we call fundraising, but it has to do with all kinds of things around sort of donors and endowments and programs for fundraising and things like that. That one department has been run by a single person for more than a decade. And I got involved to sort of help build that out. We now have 5 people on that team, 3 of which have really substantive business experience in the fundraising business. And that's another thing that's kind of been happening for a number of years now. It sort of predates Gordy and I, but this idea that the board kind of shifted its mentality away from, the primary qualification for being on the board is that you love trains, to, be on the board or be one of these department managers because you have a skill set to offer, which is sort of about business acumen instead of passion for the hobby. So that's a really big thing, I think, that's going to allow all of our departments both to continue to get a lot of stuff done. And Gordy's mandate included that other part, which is don't stop doing anything just because you have, like shiny new things on your plate. But if each one of our departments is going from 1 or 2 people to 6 or 7, and sometimes even more, I think we just have a lot more bandwidth that allows us to keep the trains running on time, for that euphemism, but also to dream about what comes next. So, I think that's part of our plan, at least.
I just had this. I just listened to, and we've since heard it a month or 2 ago. Was an interview we did with David Hyde, who is on a model railroader in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he just happens that his job is he plays the French horn in the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, but he has this unbridled enthusiasm for the hobby that got me excited, just like our buddy Dave Abley's and many, many other people. And I was thinking, man, what a great podcast it would be to have these 2 guys together talking about the hobby. So is part of your plan trying to figure out how to get all, because I think one of the magic parts of model railroading is the camaraderie that comes from finding other fellow model railroaders. And I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it again. You could have a guy. Here's a great example. You could have a guy like our buddy Josh Bowman, he's mid-30s, self-employed. He has building this great business where he repairs agricultural equipment. He's very, very good at it. His business is growing like crazy. He's a very smart young guy. And you got another guy that's a neurosurgeon, one of the world's top heart specialists or neurosurgeons, and he's in Boston. But if these 2 guys find a common bond for some railroad thing, they both like the Jeep 60s of the KCS Railroad or something like that, or the Florida East Coast Railroad, these people will become lifelong friends, regardless of how different their backgrounds are. They will become lifelong friends and have a bond that is almost unbreakable. So is that where you see? Boy, this is a long-winded question, but is that part of what you see is how you can make this thing grow? Does that make any sense?
Yes, and we'll be launching the first part of that in August, so in 2 months, and that'll be the interchange that will allow all NMRA members to be connected if they want to be, without having to be on social media, which is a big political issue in the United States. But the next thing then is, like, why can't the NMRA be like a university? So what I mean by that is, why can't people feel proud to say, I'm a member of the NMRA, this is what the NMRA did for me? This is personally, what personal attachment like people have with their college for the rest of their life. That's what we want the NMRA to have. So that's where our education comes in. The biggest single thing the NMRA can give to people is to educate them. We give people the standards in the background. People don't necessarily know that that's a thing, but we still do it. We're still at the cutting edge of standards, because if we weren't, it would very quickly fall apart. And we also, provide you with a bit of extra train spending money if you use the partnership program. But what's the one real biggest thing? John said it earlier. I joined the NMRA because I wanted to push myself to build a model railroader and get better at it. And that would be a repeated story across the place if you asked enough people. So we've really got to nail that down. That is a big, major part of us. We are an educational not-for-profit. We need to be there so that somebody turns around and says, I want to learn how to do something. Yes, you can go and watch a ton of YouTube videos, but actually being helped to learn how to do that and supported through that learning journey. If the NMRA can provide that and people come to us for that, that is that equitability that I can give to people. That is what people will always hold with them in their pocket for the rest of their lives, is that's what the NMRA directly gave to me. Equally how people, if a particular manufacturer produces that Jeep 60 KCS, whatever, that you've wanted, or, Scale Trains did the C39-8s, and, loads of Norfolk Southern modelers went mental because it's a model that they'd wanted for years, and now they're loyal Scale Trains customers, then the NMRA can do the same thing. That's what I want us to do. If we do that, and we do it well, and we maintain it, then we will grow the organization, because people want to be part of that. People don't want to be part of an organization that looks like it's dying and that's bickering and that's arguing and that's not really active and not really doing anything. And that's kind of where we ended up at the bottom of 2020. And that's not where we want to be. So the NMRA Interchange is an online platform where divisions will be able to, initially it was from an idea of a young person who said to me, it would be really cool if I was able to just come online and talk to other NMRA members anytime I wanted to. And I said, well, I know exactly how I can do that. And it spiraled from that. So it's a piece of software where each division in each region will have their own space on it, but there'll also be imagine it like a virtual convention space. So there's a big area that everybody can mingle in. And you can have hangout rooms so you can jump online and talk to your mates or new people you've never met before about KCS or CP or anything you want about railroading. And then there's also going to be, specific areas where you want to talk about operations. You can talk with fellow NMRA members from anywhere in the world about operations. But people will also be able to hold their division meets on there, because there'll be areas that are just for members of a certain division, members of a certain region, and it's free. It'll be free for everyone. It's not going to cost anything for anyone. There's an app for it that you'll be able to download, and you'll be able to have that then in your pocket on your smartphone or on your tablet, and you'll be able to link together. But how we see it being used, other than supporting division activities and helping people move into that digital space that they need to be in, is if we do run education courses that people take part in, then they can work together outside of that classroom environment, using the NMRA Interchange as a great communication tool that's costing them absolutely nothing. It's part of their membership. That's what that is. So forums, there are still forums used. A lot of people still use Group.io and things like that. But realistically, the modern way of communicating is face-to-face on a meeting platform like Zoom. The problem with Zoom is it requires somebody to set up the meeting and tell everybody about it. With the Interchange, there'll be rooms that you could just drop into and connect to, and there'll be other NMRA members there, and you'll just be talking straight into it. It's there all the time. It's like literally a virtual convention that will be open 24/7.
So, but you have to be a member of the NMRA.
Yeah, of course, you need to be a member of the NMRA. We can't just make that available to everybody because we need some incentive. But and once the stuff that comes after that, I've got to be careful because I tend to give away the game a little bit. But there's an education program that we're working on. It will be online, some elements of it, some maybe in person as well. But as part of that, people that will be able to sign up to do that course, for initially it'll just be for members, but that's not to say forever it won't be for members. But you could take out a 1995. My vision is you take out a 1995 rail pass. You can then go and do some education courses and learn and improve your enjoyment of the hobby. Connect to the NMRA interchange, and now you're talking to NMRA members all over the world, and you're building those lifelong friendships as you just described. Now you want to continue talking to those people. You want to continue meeting more people. You stay a member and you stay in that space. You continue to do education, you continue to learn, and you continue to contribute to a bigger online community, a bigger community of modelers. We don't stop doing the local division meets. We don't stop doing the region events. We don't stop doing conventions. We're adding more value all the time. And so, we talk a lot about first date jitters. When me and you first met, Lionel, we'd only ever spoken online. Yeah. There was no first date jitters when we were running around Florida chasing Lionel the lion around and throwing a microphone down the costume. It was like we've been mates for a long time, and that's what the interchange will do. Most model railroaders are introverts. We don't like being out there and being big, loud, and proud about what we do. We're very introverted. So if we can provide a tool where people can communicate and meet and talk, that's what we want to do. That's what the NMRA has always done. Always done it.
That's what's changed. That's what social media has done for model railroading is, you're right, we're generally introverts. We spend all our time in our basements, or if you're in a southern an area where there aren't basements, you're in your garage or in your train room or whatever. And now all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky after 100 years, you can go and meet all these people that you never would have met and create all these friendships. I mean, on the one hand, I think the two of you are crazy with this 250,000 member thing. And on the other hand, I think you guys are probably right on the money. If it's done and pursued properly, it's it's very doable. It's it's just this. Well, okay. What have you do all these, John? I make sure you keep chirping in every time you want to say something too. By the way,
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I want to say is just reinforcing this interchange, which is the way the platform is really similar to the kind of platforms that young people use today when they're playing video games, multiplayer around the world. So they are playing games with people and they're building community and they're talking to each other. And so it's a platform that will be really comfortable, I think, for our younger model railroaders. But the interchange and the educational initiative to follow, these are profoundly transformative opportunities to completely change. And these things, I think, make the digitalization of the NMRA magazine look like a little bitty thing. And it's a promise we have to deliver on. But I think they're going to be really revolutionary. And then back to the sort of 150,000 is crazy. I don't remember if this has been mentioned on your podcast before, but I think this is a perfect example. There is an association in America for ham radio operators, ARRL, I think, something like that. In North America, there are 160,000 members in this ham radio association. And the dues are, I think, about $50 a year. So, sort of in the same kind of way. And they offer a series of programs similar to what we have or are contemplating. And I just think about, how often do you run into a model railroader versus how often do you run into a ham radio operator? They have 160,000 of those just in the U.S.
Wow.
So when you look at it that way, it's like, aren't we dreaming big enough yet?
Well, the thing that I always say that I'll go to my grave with this one is it's almost like you can talk to anybody and they'll have a story about, oh yeah, my dad did it or my sister. And a perfect example of this is Now, this is probably being broadcast in late July or August of this year. Hey, that's what we should do from now on, Bruce. When's it going to be broadcast? It'll be in late July or August of this year, and this year could be whatever year you're listening to it. Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, long story short, I had the opportunity, and lots of people won't know who I'm talking about. Lots of people will. I had the opportunity to visit Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s race shop. Dale Earnhardt was a famous NASCAR racer in the United States. His son is Dale Earnhardt Jr. His sister is part of his race team. I had the opportunity to have a personal tour of the race shop with his sister, who runs Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s club. And the one thing I wanted to see is they have a really good, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has a really good podcast / YouTube show, mostly a podcast. But I'd seen YouTube clips of it, and they were using a particular boom for their microphones. And so you exchange niceties, and they start the tour. And I said, I really want to see the podcast studio because I want to see what boom they're using for the mics. And they're kind of all looking at me like, this is what you want to see? And anyways, we get in the studio, and I see the booms, and I'm talking to the guy that runs the show, blah, blah, blah. And he says, so what's the interest? I said, well, I happen to have a podcast. What's it about? Model railroading. Immediately, one of the people there's like three, there's Dale Earnhardt's sister and the guy from NBC and another guy. And immediately one of them goes, oh, my uncle has a model railroad. And boom, away I went on the conversation, and I got to explain to them about the podcast and their interest. It seems like one out of every three people, one out of every two people has some sort of connection to trains or model railroading. And I think that's what you guys are trying to tap into. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
I mean,
it seems like there's just a massive number of people who have some sort of connection to model railroading. And then there's a massive number of people in the hobby.
Well, I keep trying to tell you. Okay, so two things here, right? One, the average age of customer for scale trains is 35, right? The NMRA was launched by a bunch of 30-somethings. You've got a 30-something in the helm, and you've got directors who are, wanting to drive a change and wanting to grow and develop an organization. You're in like a perfect storm. A lot of the department heads that have come on board are younger. The hobby is a young hobby. The NMRA is not a young person organization at the moment, just in terms of who's a member at this moment in time. That doesn't mean there's not lots of really positive young people in the organization all the way through it. And so the hobby is not going to die. The hobby is exploding. Universities are putting back in model railroad clubs. That's amazing. That's something that's not happened probably since the 70s. So 50 years ago, that would be a thing. Now Illinois Tech has a massive model railroad club that does Fremo. But they do it slightly different. So you look at the differences there between us and them, and it shouldn't be an us and them situation, but you look at the differences. They understand that most people that join that club join it because they want a career in engineering or operations of a railroad or something. They dream to be a railroad engineer, which most people that are model railroaders at one point in their life dream to be a railroad engineer, right? So they bring in people from industry to talk. The NMRA doesn't really do that very often. Maybe once at a regional banquet or something. These are bringing people in to talk every month to their monthly meeting, right? And then they've also got other activities. Being active is the most important thing to bring people into an organization. And this is what we're trying to say about the NMRA, learning from others. The ham radio group. I'm a radio ham, so I'm aware of that group. You're looking at that group, looking at what the youngsters themselves have done and how they've structured themselves, where they've started their own model railroad club at universities. So how can we learn from them, grow grow ourselves by adopting some of the things that they do, and innovating by looking at whatever innovations available to us, such as the interchange. It's not difficult to do what we're doing. Therefore, it's not difficult to get to 150,000 members. It just involves putting in some effort.
Okay.
That's all it involves.
So have you two have you guys broached this subject with the board of directors in general? Like, or is this just the two of you have been smoking some happy grass and this is what you've come up with?
There's no happy grass in Orkney. It's too cold. So this is something that's been discussed at national level. It's been discussed with the other directors. I wouldn't say that we've gone round and surveyed the other directors to see do they agree with John's 10 points, but they're all, the conversation's all around the same position. I wouldn't say that every other director will say 150,000. Everyone would give you a different number, but everybody that's on the board wants to see the organisation grow and wants to see the organisation be successful. But the purpose, part of the purpose of the board is to have checks and balances. So, whatever we do now going forward, we do with data, we do it with consultation, we ask members their opinion, we bring groups together, we look at the options, we evaluate, and we present all that information back to the board. And that helps them make a decision. So if they can make the decision faster, great. We don't pressure them to make that decision faster. We provide them with the information in order for them to be able to make that decision. Ultimately, as I've said this to many people now, there wasn't that many changes at the board last August that took us from we're not having a digital magazine because it's not possible and not what people want to delivering the digital magazine in less than 12 months. 2 different directors, that's all. And so it's the same people. So they always wanted to do that. It's just not necessarily that we were always set up for success. Mm-hmm. And it's not that people weren't trying to do that. People were. We look at what the previous people brought in. The partnership program isn't a new idea. It's been going for a long time now. The model with the masters has been going a long time. So there's education been going on in the NMRA. Now we're just looking at how, with the opportunities that have been presented to us, with what we've learned from the pandemic, with what we've been able to see in terms of innovation in people's everyday lives, people becoming more familiar with technology and having it as part of their lives, how can we exploit that, to improve the organization and improve the experience of a member and to grow? And that's just, there's no resistance to that, as long as with any decision in any business, the decision's being driven by data, basically.
I was just going to say that, we've sort of fixated a little on this sort of 10 times as many people. I don't know that at the end of the day that's not the most important metric here. I think, I like the idea of 10x better, because basically it's asking the question, what's an order of magnitude better than what we have in everything? What's the transformative place?
Can I just interrupt you for a second? Can I interrupt you? Please, I'm sorry. But before we go forward, what is 10x? You've referred to that a couple of times.
I just mean 10 times what we have. We have about we have 15,000 members and change today, so 10 times that many.
All right, carry on.
Right. So 10x sort of is sort of obvious when you're talking about numbers. What would it look like if instead of having close to 1,000 MMRs, we had 10,000 MMRs, right? But it's also more a qualitative way of thinking. Okay, we've been in education for a long period of time. What would that look like to just blow the doors off that, right? Or we've support, in all these various ways, asking the questions, how do we really get way beyond where we are? And I did want to say that it's not just about one or two of us with crazy ideas. There is there is a lot of support all around the leadership team, and not even just at national. When you talk to the nearly 20 region leadership teams around the country, when you talk to what we have 170 or so divisions, overwhelmingly all of the people involved see the opportunity and want to make change and want to keep adding value, and are sort of really, their hearts are really in this. But you made the point earlier, sometimes we just get bogged down in the minutia, and that sort of destroys the momentum. And also, I think we've allowed ourselves too often to let a few vocal critics kind of dominate the conversation. And frankly, that was where I brought up that sort of 10-point manifesto. It really wasn't about vision as much as about kind of values or principles that we might live by. And I think what we need to do is decide together that this is important, that we're kind of going for something big. If we don't get to 150,000, but we double or triple the size of this organization, we'll do something that nobody has done in 5 decades. and
Well,
right,
it's very again. I've cut you off. I'm a lousy host, but just you know what? I'm getting excited listening to you guys because it's a very exciting objective to think you could get it to numbers that have never been even thought about, and I think we're on the verge of an opportunity to make our buddy Uncle Dave constantly talks about the camaraderie of model railroading, and I think that's something that can really be where you can really grow the hobby on is the camaraderie.
One of the things that's really challenging about this whole thing is that once you're in this association and you're in this community, then you can look from the inside and look around and you see, you know what, the real value, the real intangible value that I get out of this is people. It's friends and camaraderie and friendships and connections and all those things. The problem is we can't sell that, right? Because as I often like to say, I didn't come to the NMRA thinking that what I needed was more friends. I came thinking what I needed was more knowledge.
Yeah.
More knowledge. So you can't really sell that. But once you get in and you look around, you go, that I get it now. That's really the real benefit is being in this family. But I do want to say, but that's why we keep pounding on education. And education is not the same thing as information. See, I don't think we can win on information because information is ubiquitous. It's commoditized. It's free all over the place. So we're not trying to out YouTube anymore, right? But what you can get is information connected to people and experts, and that's how you learn. And I don't think anybody is in a position in this hobby to do that as well as the NMRA community.
Yeah, and are you going to have, as you go forward with this education thing, are you going to try to have some sort of like one of the great things about the new world and the internet and social media is that anybody can make a YouTube channel and anybody can make YouTube videos. One of the worst parts about the new world and social media is that anybody can make a YouTube channel and anybody can make YouTube videos because it's very unchecked. So, I mean, I can see as you go forward and you're trying to, like, I see one of the problems with the NMRA is it's trying to be all things to all people. And like, in reality, it's the example I constantly use is I'm a hockey player. Period, end of sentence, I'm a hockey player. Now, I just don't happen to play nearly as well as guys in the NHL, but I've played hockey my whole life. So just like Wayne Gretzky was a hockey player, or the stars of today, Austin Matthews or whoever your star is of today, I'm still a hockey player. I'm just don't have the same skill as him. So they don't let me play in the NHL because I'm not good enough. So I see one of the problems with the NMRA is they try, every time you try to do one of these education things, you try to include everybody because you don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to say to them, oh, well, maybe you need to improve your skills or something. Like that I see as a problem going forward. How do you think you're going to manage that?
Oh, I've got a plan for that. So I'm going to say I've got a plan for that. Yeah. We've already looked at this. So I'm going to use your hockey analogy, but I'm just going to say one thing. I'm not going to say that only the best model railroaders are members of the NMRA, or only real model railroaders are members of the NMRA, because a previous president did that and it backfired, and I don't believe it. Anyway, so hockey. Let's use hockey for an example, right? There are people that start before people can play hockey, they need to learn how to skate. Before people can skate, they need to learn how to walk. For all of those levels, if they learn to walk, learn to skate, learn to play hockey, they have a coach. And those coaches were not Olympic athletes, were not NHL players, but they can play hockey to a better level than the person that they're teaching, or as good a level as the person that they're teaching, and they have enough knowledge to be able to help that person improve. So it's more important that the person is able to help somebody to improve than it is that the person would enter a contest and beat everybody else that they're teaching, because that's just not real. It's just ridiculous. And the elitism exist in any organization. But the people, you put the right people in to lead education, you put the right people in to lead the program, and that won't happen. But the program will have stuff that's aimed at it. Now, I'll give you an interesting thing. We recently put out an education survey, and over 80% of respondents said they felt they were an expert in model railroading. So I'm here as an MMR, right? I'm one of the 700. I am not an expert in anything to do with model railroading. No MMR is. Nobody is. Nobody is the expert, the font of knowledge, of the only font of knowledge on any subject whatsoever, right? That's not the case. It's just not true. But that is a belief that's within our organization at the moment. However, I know that that's not a view held by everybody. And so courses will be aimed at people that are new to the hobby. Courses will be aimed at people that have been involved a little bit. And courses will be aimed at people becoming advanced in a subject, but never to be an expert, because no one is an expert. So, and they'll be taught by people who have some ability to pass on knowledge and skills and help people to develop knowledge and skills that they don't have. Now, YouTube can't do that. So when you're putting out a YouTube video, people will choose to subscribe to certain channels because of the quality of the output and because of it matches their skill level or whatever. But as John said, that's just information. There's a big difference between information and then doing some coursework together, going away and trying it out yourself and bringing it back. What did you do in the last however long period of time? Work together with your peers and then support each other to improve. That doesn't happen on YouTube. YouTube can't give that. YouTube's a video streaming platform, not an education platform. People put videos on there for people to, impart some knowledge to somebody else. People also put car crash videos on there, whatever, right? But that's the difference. And that's where we as an organization are best equipped to that, because we already have a pool of people who want to share knowledge and want to help. And I know that that's deep down what this organization's about, because I've experienced it through my entire time of being part of the organization. The difference between now and 10 years ago is I can connect people. Doesn't matter where you are now. I can connect you to somebody who is very good at teaching that topic. Not necessarily the expert, not necessarily the font of all knowledge, but is good at teaching that topic. And so we're working on a way that we'll be able to do that so that anyone, anywhere in the NMRA can teach anybody else. And equally, anyone, anywhere in the world can join the NMRA and be taught by somebody who can make their life better. That's what we need to do. That's where you turn the organization from where it is today, which is very much a social organization that got very much impacted by COVID-19. And you turn it into something that benefits the hobby in more than just doing standards. It benefits everybody in the hobby by helping everybody in the hobby enjoy it more. Same with hockey. If people weren't taught how to get better at playing hockey, there wouldn't be anybody in the NHL playing hockey.
That's right. I understand what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, the guys that are going to teach when you're 10 years old aren't in the NHL, but they're valuable contributors to the whole journey, because you got to have those guys to get you to the next level. That's a great point. And I want to go back. I think.
Can I just add one thing real quick to that? Because I think here's how I see this, and it ties into some of the things that I had sort of tried to articulate in this manifesto. We don't want to be exclusive in terms of where a person's skill level is, all the way from the sort of amateur street hockey player all the way up to NHL. We'll have offerings and value for people all up and down that chain. What I do think we need to be better at is building a kind of a contract with one another inside this community that says, I'm going to help you and you're going to help me. And in order to do that, we have to agree to be vulnerable with one another, to be able to take critique, because after all, you asked for it, right? To be able to give critique, to be able to realize that none of us are perfect at this. All too often we have people who are getting feedback and they're not sure they really wanted it, or they asked for it and then they get their feelings hurt, or the people who are giving the feedback aren't very good, socially. So, and all of those things then turn into stories that get manifested over and over the ages. And it's all just too fragile that way, I think. The idea is you come into this association because what you have in common is not your skill level. What you have in common is your desire to improve. And it isn't easy. We have to acknowledge it isn't easy, because what we're doing with each other is we're showing each other our art. It's something that's important to us. It's something that's sort of meaningful, and it's a part of our identity. And whenever I show you that, if you give me negative feedback, we have to work through that. But the whole point is to come here, I think, and learn from one another so that you can keep growing and developing. And I think we just need to be more clear about that. That's the value. And every one of those connections isn't perfect. But if it's given in the spirit of helping one another and supporting one another and collaborating, then to me, that's really, really important for us to sort of work on, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah. I thought that's great. And I also think what you said earlier, it's like you join the NMRA, but then you get inside the castle walls and you see all the people and all the friends, and you go, oh, this is what's so great about the NMRA. It's kind of like you want to explain to people what it is, but it's hard to get them to come in, to get across the moat and come in, because it's not a closed shop by any standard.
Yeah, you know what these guys are doing? They're doing the exact opposite of the old boys club that the NMRA's been known for, perceived to be known for years.
Well, exactly. But we have to be very careful.
Well, no, I'm just throwing it out there. How many times have you gone, or I've had the experience, gone to a meeting somewhere, and you kind of get the look when you walk in, the old guys are over there like, who's this guy? And they don't give you the time of day, and that's when you walk out and say, that's it, I'm done.
But that's
these guys are doing, hey, come on in. Let's see what we're doing. Talk to us and whatnot, so.
But that's the beauty of the new. That's the beauty of the
new age, is that you can get in and meet other people rather than walk in the door and get the evil eye from 12 old guys across the room.
All right, I got three questions, and then we'll close this puppy up. What exactly is the rail pass? Anybody? Does anybody?
The rail pass is a sort of a low risk entry point to get in and try out the association. At various times in the past, it was a 6-month temporary membership. Today, it's a 9-month temporary membership. I think it's still $19.95. And the idea is come in, give us a chance, and we'll show you what the NMRA is all about before you make a full calendar year kind of commitment. And it is a great idea that we've had trouble executing around for a couple of different reasons. One, our systems haven't been super supportive. So unlike so many areas of the world today where you sign up for something and immediately you see all the benefits, we had to kind of go through the clunky system of getting people on board. And then the other thing, which is sort of more endemically a challenge, I think, is that, everything happens through this association kind of down at the local level. So information and data have to flow back. And so if you signed up on a rail pass and then you didn't hear from us for several weeks or a month, and then the division that you're attached to didn't have a meeting for a while. But anyway, the idea was you get a really great experience early on, and then you lean into it. Yeah. So
the idea is you got, as soon as somebody signs up for the rail pass online, you got to give them something like right away.
Well, that's what we need to work on, and that'd be part of our work plan. Is you get we'd sort of do this amazing onboarding, right? So that you go, wow, that's what I needed, and that's an initiative that's kind of on the docket.
It's almost
so that's coming. Basically the Rail Pass membership, to answer the question, is an opportunity to try out all the benefits of the NMRA for 9 months for less than $20. And that includes the digital magazine, that includes going to meetings, that will include any education program, that includes even taking part in the AP program. You might struggle to become an MMR in 9 months, but I don't think it's impossible if you've already worked towards it before you join. And you can go to your division meetings, you can go to conventions, etc. That was the idea, and it's taken out by a number of people every year. Less during COVID, because most people sign up to that at train shows and conventions and stuff, and those obviously didn't happen. But John's point that John's making is about that converting that to a full membership only happens based on the experience, which it's down to, unfortunately, where you are in the world, or where you are in the United States, because we only offer Rail Pass in the US and Canada. But where you are in the US, and it's not at the fault of any of our local divisions or members. Some of our divisions are absolutely massive, and it might be that person that joins on a rail pass has no transport, so can't get to meetings and events. It might be that division's only got 4 or 5 people in it. So this is where it ties back to what I originally said at the beginning of the podcast, is that we need to ensure we don't have a problem recruiting people. We have a problem retaining people. So we need to work on making sure that experience that everybody has, there's a base level of experience that doesn't rely on region and division activities. The region and division activities that happen are just a bonus on top. And so that does involve the onboarding process. And so all of our departments are having a serious look about what goes well, what doesn't go well, what could be better. Our IT department is going through a massive upgrade, and something that's probably been not happening for a while in terms of not management of IT, but upgrades have not really been taking place for a number of years. So we've brought somebody in to do that. And it's all part of the preparedness to grow, because once we've got put solid foundation there, which won't take forever, people always say to me, well, you say you're going to build a foundation, how long is it going to take? Well, we're talking months, not years. We put those foundations in place, and then then our administration department can turn around and build and change their process on top of something that's much more robust than what they've got today. So it all has to be a journey. It's not a light switch on, on and off kind of thing. We're on a journey, and the whole organization's got to move on that journey. There's no point just working on an education program when the onboarding experience into the organization needs to be improved. There's no point trying to push out and promote our website through marketing when our website needs to be improved. And there's no point us pushing people to join online when the shopping cart doesn't work with PayPal very well. So those kind of niggly business as usual things that are getting fixed need to be fixed as well. So it's kind of like a whole big tsunami of work that's going on at National, hence why we needed more people. And I know that's gone from rail pass to quite a lot of stuff there, but that's why it's not just
but
that's why it's just not one lever that needs to be pulled.
Yeah, I know, but that's part of the whole thing is your enthusiasm. Bruce, did you have a question? You were saying something earlier. You said you might have a question for later.
No, I think I asked my question. Okay. I wanted to comment about the app, but we can wait till we're off the air and I'll comment.
Oh, off the air. Oh, okay. All right. So you say you've been to a lot of Zoom meetings. So we put this with the release of this podcast. We will also somewhere on the website put this 10-point manifesto that we've been speaking of, so people will have seen it. So you say you've been to a lot.
Is that for public knowledge though?
Well, I should let me just say though that the disclaimer is that's just me.
Okay, all right. Well, we won't put it out there.
It's not an official NMRA. We are we've turned that into a clinic. We've given it a couple of times. We're going to do that at St. Louis. So we're sort of kind of testing this, and it's now on what we call the monthly work plan for the board and leadership team. So we'll kick it around. I don't know if it becomes institutionalized or not. It's just some basic ideas, but that's the only disclaimer I'd add to it.
It's a thought piece. It's a thought piece. It's right. A thought piece. It's intended
a what piece?
A thought piece. It's intended to do exactly what it's done today, which is to make you think and make you talk. It's not a action plan.
Not a policy.
It's not a policy. It's not an action plan. It's to initiate a conversation, and that's exactly what it's doing.
Bruce.
Hello.
Did you fall asleep? Are you back?
No, I'm here. Why?
No, because you went hello, and I knew the microphone was nowhere to be seen.
It's actually next to my ear for some reason.
That's where I always put mine.
Yeah, it works well there.
Sometimes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes Gordy talks funny.
I knew what he was talking about. A thought.
Spell it for me.
THOUGHT. Thought. He had a good thought.
Oh,
it's
thought
process.
Thought process.
Yes.
It's a thought piece.
Thought piece. Thought.
It's a thought piece.
Okay. I'm thinking, what the heck is he saying?
It's something that's commonly used in order to help people.
I get it. I just didn't understand what you were trying to say. It sounded like you said a pork piece, and I was sitting there in a day.
Pork pies or something?
What is he talking about? Do you like pumpkin pie, Gordy?
Yeah.
Oh man,
pumpkin beer is good as well.
No, pumpkin beer. I'm only saying that because I'm listening to fans. I'm editing fans 51 right now, and we got talking about pumpkin pie, and both Bruce and I don't understand pumpkin pie at all, or what the point of it is.
Yes.
Well, or don't really get it in the UK, and I'm not supposed to eat it because I'm diabetic. But anyway,
neither does Duke, the table master. He doesn't understand it either, and he's from the South. Okay, so you've been on all these Zoom meetings, and to figure out because you didn't understand or you didn't know what. So what do you understand now? Like you went all these Zoom meetings to try to understand the NMRA. What have you learned from these Zoom meetings, and what is it you understand now?
So what I understand now is that the more active a division is at the moment directly relates to whether that division's being successful and growing or not. That's one thing. How active that division is, a lot depends on how much on the people. Have they got the people? It only takes one or two really, engaged people to turn things into being from active to inactive. But also I heard quite strongly that the cost of Zoom and continuing to do hybrid meetings where they have an in-person meeting and people can join online, which has brought a lot of people back into the division that were still members but weren't active, which helps them be more active as a division, is costing them more money than they can afford. Hence why we're bringing in the interchange. I also have learned that there's a lot of myths in our organisation, and as John said earlier, stories from 20 years ago that are now fact. They're like as if somebody came down with them on tablets of stone, and it's just not true. So a lot of what I do is myth busting, but really what it has taught me is that we've got a really strong organisation at grassroots level that really wants to grow and drive the organisation forward. And it's amazing how many really cool old dudes we've got in our organisation, for want of a better word, who are using all this technology and helping their friends to adopt it as well. And also, some fantastic, just fantastic personalities. So I've been to about 40 divisions now. I try to go to as many as I can. Some people get upset because they've not seen me for a few weeks and they want me to come back to their division, and I've done that. Indy Junction was absolutely insane. I said I think I spoke to about, there was 505 members there. I said I think I spoke to about 200 to 300, and then some of the other directors who were present said that was an underestimation. It was probably more near 400 members.
So they had 500 registrants?
Yeah.
Wow,
I spent 9.5 hours one day doing nothing but talking to members and listening to members.
I heard Tracy Boyd had to come in and get you to get something to eat.
She had to get me out to get me something to eat. She said, she reminded me that I am diabetic and I needed to eat. So
right.
But yeah, it was crazy. I think I slept for about 3 hours a day when I was there, and that just that wouldn't be the case if we were in an organisation that didn't care about itself, and we had people that didn't care that were dying. Because quote, people always say the organisation's dying. That's not a symptom of an organisation that's dying.
I'd like to get away from I don't want to ever mention ever again model railroading is dying, because that is so far from. That is so far from the truth. It's like, it's not even.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't say it. No, but other people do. And I'm so tired of that discussion because it's an old discussion that doesn't hold any water.
Can I just add?
Growing hobbies in the world.
No, John, I'm afraid your time is up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, it's not. Come on.
No, I was just thinking about, first of all, I'm really uncomfortable with this behavior that Gordy's modeling about going to all these damn meetings. I get exhausted just watching him. But I do have one example of just kind of, to me, it was really, really powerful. I logged in, got the information and logged into a division meeting. Somebody suggested I go. And so I just popped in as a regular division meeting. Happened to be in a small division in the Midwest. They had about 10 or 15 people on the line. and they had a sort of division superintendent and an assistant superintendent. So 2 leaders and 8 or 9, 10 members. And I just popped in and said, "Hi, I'm John. I'm from National. I'm just sort of coming in to say hello." And the weird thing that was that all these guys just became really choked up about this. And they were impressed that anybody would show up and care. And I think what you have is a lot of folks out there who are really motivated to do the right thing and make things happen and kind of shepherd their little flock in their division. And too often they've just sort of been left out there to kind of feel like they're doing it all by themselves.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because, in 175 divisions, in any one point, in any one moment, a third of them are all working on trying to solve the exact same problem. So we can do so much. One of the things we were working on right now is called the Division Success Kit, with just all kinds of information about how to run a division and, best practices and ideas that other people have done. There's so much to do. And I think a lot of that value, and I was at Indy Junction and I saw these people sort of swarming Gordy all the time, like rock and roll groupies or something. Right. And what it is just people are just really, really impressed when you show up, I think.
Yeah. Well,
and show some interest, and you don't have any answers necessarily, but you're listening and learning. And, that just tells me there's just an appetite for that. There's a lot of people. There are thousands of people in this organization who are trying to make this a great experience for other model railroaders.
And I think it goes back to what we were saying. There's thousands of people in this organization that realize the friendship and the camaraderie that comes from this hobby. It's like a secret almost that we're trying to get out. So you just mentioned the interchange. Divisions are going to be able to use the interchange thing instead of Zoom for running their meetings. Is that what you were trying to say, Gordy?
Yeah. So, like anything, it'll work under certain circumstances. So 80% of our divisions are small enough that, 25 people is generally their attendance online or as part of either a hybrid meeting or just the meeting is online. So yeah, for the majority of our divisions, this will work really well. For the bigger divisions, it'll still work for them. They still may need a Zoom account just simply because they've got 300, 400 people in the division. So 100 people turn up to an online meeting. The platform is probably going to struggle with 100 people. But they tend to have subgroups and sub-meetings of people that are doing their AP program or people that are in an op group. And those people can still use the interchange to have their meetings. And no longer does it now mean that the division, somebody in the division has to coordinate, remembering to send out the Zoom link for their chat on a Tuesday night. They can just go to their division's hangout room, which a division can have as many hangout rooms as they want, and go and chat. It's not going to be like boom. It's going to be a switch flicked on, and it's going to be a big thing. It's going to be something that's going to grow over, I think, the next 12 to 18 months once we launch it. But yeah, the potential is definitely there.
I don't understand this whole thing. Divisions can't afford Zoom because it's like I have one for the AML, and it's like $150 a year. Like, how can a division not afford $150 a year? Anyways.
Yeah, but why? Yeah, but wouldn't it be better if that $150 was put into helping, a younger person?
Oh, for sure.
Be part of the organization or take part. I mean, we've done it in the AML Nation. We've helped people. I have a thing that people, I don't publicize it because I couldn't help everybody, but at least every year I help somebody to become an NMRA member that can't afford to do it.
Right.
And so we've done it in the AML network. We've helped crowdfund from AML people to help certain individuals that are struggling to attend events or take part or whatever. Yeah. I would rather that $150, it's such a small amount, was used towards the division having an annual barbecue or an annual outing or
That's
something.
A good idea.
It was being paid to Zoom. Why would I want to take that money away from the organization?
Okay. It's a great idea. The entertainer is a great idea. You're right. And I know that some organizations like the AML would even pay to have pay the president's registration to a convention.
Exactly. And so
I actually have 2 questions left.
Okay.
So you talk about some of the stories, John, you talk about how some of the stories from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the myths have become, fact, etched in stone fact and things like that. Well, I happen to know some stories are myths. Some stories are, in fact, based on real history and real events. So, as now that I have both the president of the NMRA and the Eastern director who sits on the board of directors of the NMRA, I have a thing that I find is personally should be addressed by the present board and the present president. In 1986, the NMRA convention was held in Boston. And they held the train show in a parking garage, and basically like 100 and they had like 200 attendees. But all these vendors had spent money for tables and traveling to the show and setting up, and most of the vendors were out of pocket considerably because the show was very poorly promoted. And I was wondering what the present board and the president, what do you plan to do to help these people that had, it's been, 36 years now? And there's been no indication that the NMRA board is going to do anything to help offset the costs that these people incurred when it was so poorly run. Anything? What do you guys think you're going to do? Silence.
I'm quite sure I should defer to Gordy on this one.
So I have tasked my Eastern District Director on locating some Boston lobsters from 1986 vintage that can be given to these people in recompense, because I think that's vitally important that they get something that they would have appreciated in 1986 and not, an iPad or something that they would appreciate now. The other problem we've got as well is that many of those people are probably passed. And so we need to consider the management of their estates as well. So it's something that we're seriously looking into. But I won't look into it because those fine people in Boston destroyed our tea and had a party with it. And I can guarantee that if Her Majesty the Queen had been in charge of Boston and recovering the taxes from said train show, she would have ensured that it was well attended and the tax revenue was high. So I think, it's a victim of our own of previous successes, but we continue to attempt to address it, and more importantly, we continue to prevent a recurrence.
Okay, and John, if you could bring that up at the next board meeting, just don't let them just pass it, table it for the next meeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, since this happened quite a long time before I was involved with the NMRA or lived in New England, or even knew what the heck you were talking about, I think I'm going to fall on the side of reparations and making sure everybody has at least one lobster. The challenge is finding these antique lobsters, though. We can get the new ones, but getting the old ones has been, it's harder than I thought it was going to be.
Well, if you guys are going to increase the membership to 250,000 people, I think finding old lobster should be pretty easy compared to that.
I think you have to get on eBay and search under vintage lobster.
Stop. Did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Lionel wants to see the NMRA grow to 250,000.
No, he said 750,000.
No, a quarter of a million.
It's quarter of a million. So 250,000. So as I've been trying to tell you, John, you're thinking too small.
Right? Apparently, we need a bigger number.
Thinking way too small. But it's good to see. It's good to see there that Lionel thinks that we're underestimating our abilities. It's good.
Yeah. So I first met Gordy at what convention was it? It was in Orlando. What year was it?
2017 in Orlando, yeah.
Yeah, 2017 in Orlando. And we went out to dinner, and I was late as usual, because I always am. And we went out to dinner, and back then you would have been, just 29, 30 years old?
Yeah, something like that.
And
30 I was, yeah.
And met this young guy that had so much enthusiasm about the NMRA. And I'm like, yeah, nice guy, nice kid, blah, blah, blah. And then, I saw you at Springfield probably the next year, and I saw you here, and you were intent on trying to become part of the organization. And there were points in there where you just basically irritated the crap out of me. But, I'd sit there. I remember one night sitting at a Hooters, and listening to you. I'm thinking, yeah, sure. But everybody needs to understand that this is on the free channel, so thousands of people are listening. Everybody needs to understand that we are extremely fortunate that this young man has shown up and to help to lead the NMRA. And the key to the whole story to me is, I remember I asked you once on a podcast, what is the deal with you? Why are you so devoted to the NMRA? And you had this great story of when you were a kid. Your dad took you to a club, and a couple of fellas there took you in and welcomed you into the club and welcomed you into the hobby, which made all the difference for you. And it's a great story. I mean, it's just, I'm so excited to be a part of this journey with you now. It's very, very exciting. So thank you very much, Gordy, for being Gordy.
Amen.
Thanks, Lionel.
And now here comes my question. All right, you two clowns. All right, what's the first thing you're going to do? What is your plan here to grow this thing? I mean, everything you've said has been very interesting and useful. But seriously, what are you guys? What is the board? What is the president? What is your first? Like, how do you see the first thing you're going to really try to do to? Where do you see the membership growing? What is your key? What is your number one key item to making the membership grow? Gordy. All right, John, you go first, then we'll finish with Gordy.
Well, I don't want to steal the thunder.
Well, you can't steal the thunder. It's not that
really
hard.
I mean, Gordy's got the executive kind of authority to decide that and push that. But I think that, as I alluded to earlier, and he unpacked some of the details, I think the interchange and the educational program that we're contemplating is going to open up. I mean, it's our great hope that it's going to open up the eyes, not only of the people that are already swirling around in the NMRA community, but people who've been on the outside. See, here's the thing that I think is really important, because you mentioned Gordy's story, and I have a similar one. Never in my life have I ever asked myself, what do I get out of the NMRA? What do I get for my dues? Because a long, long, long time ago, it sort of got imprinted in my brain that this is what I wanted to do. This was going to be a part of my identity. And the same thing with Gordy. I don't think he probably has ever kind of gone, well, are the dues getting to be too high? But it's not like that for a lot of people today. So we have to make the case. And so it's really about putting yourself into the mind of a 35-year-old, which is why it's good to have somebody like that running the association, and say, well, what is it they want? What do they need? What would capture their imagination? And I just really believe, in addition to 50 different things that we're doing that are about all the operations and the details and the foundations, transforming how you learn to become a better model railroader, I think is going to be the magic sauce for us.
Okay, cool. So transforming how you learn to become a model railroader and
a better model railroader, right?
Or even a model railroader, really. I mean, some people who might show up, just don't have really no idea at all. So, Gordy, what's the thing here? What is it you're going to do first to start
we've already started. So, you might not have realized it, but we've already started winning the war. So, we've had our Dunkirk moment. That was the NMRA Digital Magazine. So, it wasn't the start of the end, but it's definitely the end of the beginning. And so what you're seeing now is a huge change in the culture of the organization, a huge upswell of positivity, a huge, swell of looking at how we can innovate, how we can be different. What does our future look like? How can we learn? How can we grow? And how can we share? You're seeing that now. And that's culture. The way that we make the only way to make the organization get to where it needs to be is to have a good culture. And we already had an okay culture, but we're starting to root those things out that are negative in that culture and starting to turn it into positivity. People say to me, I'm passionate about something I don't like this. I don't tell them why that they're wrong. I turn around and say, well, would you like to help us make that change? And they come on board. And that's a cultural difference. And that's strong leadership at all levels in the organization. So that's how we do it, ultimately. That is the fundamental rock that we build everything else around. And we're doing it. And that's already started to happen. And it can, as long as it continues to happen and we don't end up having any setbacks into the way things were and that we do things because that's how we've always done it, and we start to move forward and add those benefits and start to look at how do we become a better organization, and how can we do it at pace and with activity without stopping anything that we do today that makes people want to be part of us today. That's how we do it. But it's already started. The ship's already sailed. Like if you don't think I'm already hitting the beach, I'm already in the English Channel on my way to Normandy, and it's too late for you to stop it. It's already happening.
That's it. I am so excited. You know what? The thing that people don't get is that the NMRA offers, being a model railroader and the connections you make with people, is the camaraderie of this hobby is absolutely the best asset. When you were running for president, I was kind of on the fence a little bit at the very beginning, and then I was talking to our buddy Kevin Marks, Hard Part, and we were having a little quick conversation, and I said, Gordy seems to be, blah, 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 I can't get my... And he says, don't kill somebody's enthusiasm. And as soon as he said that to me, the light switch went off in my head, and I went, you know what? He's right. I'm going to just jump in and get behind this whole Gordy thing and push it as far as I can, because don't kill somebody's enthusiasm. And that's what you're doing now, is you've created enthusiasm, and we just want to keep going with this enthusiasm. It's like Uncle Dave or Dave Hyde, he's got this enthusiasm these people have for the hobby, and to be alive is infectious. It's just absolutely infectious.
And so people can I tell a story, and it'll be a good way to finish this podcast. So it recently happened. This happened at Indy Junction, and I wrote about this in my July NMRA magazine column. So, we talk about what happened to me when I was younger. We talked about what happened to John when he was a youngster. We were youngsters a long time ago. John longer than me, but still, it's a long time ago in the eyes of young people, right? But most young people now, even for me at 35, that's half their lifetime. That's another lifetime to them. So, in Indy Junction, a young lady who's 19 from Boston, who's an online gamer. She's a graphic artist who draws trains for Train Simulator. And she gets paid for that. Instead of going to college, she's a freelance graphic artist that draws trains for simulator games, right? And she wanted to go to the Beech Grove shops. The only way she could go to Amtrak's Beech Grove shops in Indianapolis was to join with an NMRA event to do it. So she came to Indy Junction. Her parents drove her all the way from Boston to, from Springfield, all the way to Indianapolis. And what we organised with the Barbara Soward, the registration manager for Indy Junction, was that we would look after this person and help them take part in more than just a tour of the Amtrak shops. So they arrived the day before the tour. Within 2 minutes of arriving, we buddied them up with Jordan Kramer. He took her onto one of the Fremo layouts, and she operated a model railroad for the first time, and he taught her how to do everything, and they were looking at car cards, waybills, which was an easy conversion from the online world for that young person. They went and did their tour on the following morning, and then we organised for them to jump in a car with us. So now just met the organisation, now sitting with the president of the organisation in a car, doing layout tours, and introduce the person to the model railroaders concept of don't knock, just come in, which in the US is a weird, not advisable in most states. So we just going into these people's, and she's seen some of the best, fantastic layouts in Indianapolis or in the Indiana area, and she's just eyes bulging out of her head as we go into this P48 layout, and every single building's got a full interior in it, and every single thing on the layout scratch built, and the track's hand laid, and it's unbelievable. Just learning so much, absorbing it all like a sponge, and then we go to an NMRA member's house for dinner with that NMRA member and his wife, and then we took her to a op session. And now we're converting the online world into the real world, and now taking part in an op session. And we're like, well, I've done op sessions before online, and interestingly used a similar platform to what we're going to launch with the NMRA interchange. But anyway, and I said, well, this is going to be different because in a train simulator, you kind of know what's going to happen, and random things don't really occur unless you've built them into the program. On a model railroad, things go wrong just like the real thing, and you'll have no control over it because you've got human beings added into this, and it's going to be chaos. And she absolutely loved it. The young lassie was smiling from ear to ear from the minute she walked through the door to the minute we got back to the hotel. She was still smiling 4 hours later, absolutely loved it, and then went off with a group of NMRA members rail fanning some of the freight yards in Indianapolis, seeing big freight trains which you can't see at home. Following morning, we get the message off this lady. She's a young lady. She's driving back with her parents back to Boston. Can you give me any advice on, one, how do I persuade my parents we need to move because I need a bigger basement for my model railroad? And two, where do I find information about joining the NMRA? Instantly, we've got somebody there that now can see the value of the organization. If we'd have just given them a pamphlet, or we'd have just given them, they'd seen a YouTube video, they wouldn't have understood what the reality is. And so that same story of just taking care over somebody, just having that culture, that having that mindset of, I need to look after this person, I need to make sure that this person feels, accepted and is part of the organization, it will result in a conversion there to somebody that's going to be loyal and see long-term benefit from being a member of the NMRA. That's how easy it is. So the magic sauce is already there. We've just got to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to taste the magic sauce, basically.
The magic sauce.
I like that. It's, that's really what it's about.
It is. It's the magic sauce. And hats off to our buddy Jordan Kramer for getting involved. Way to go, Jordan. Attaboy. Okay, that's a great story. But we got.
I have one quick question. If somebody is listening to this and is all excited and wants to get involved more in helping the NMRA, who can they contact?
That's a great question. Yeah, who can they contact? Either one of you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do they contact? How do they contact either John or Gordy? Give us an email address or something.
So if you want to contact me, it's dead easy. It's president@nmra.org. If you want to contact John or any of the other directors or any other member of the national team, you can go to our website, nmra.org. And if you go to organization and structure, which is one of the links on the homepage, you'll be able to contact anybody. There's also a contact us form on our website. And you can drop a message in there, and that'll go to our IT team, and they'll redirect it to whoever's the best person. You can also pick up the phone and talk to our headquarters team, and they'll help direct you. They help connect a lot of people to me or to John or whoever it is that you want to talk to. You can also on our website find out about your local division and region, and you can find the contact information for the people there and go along. That's not always something that people feel comfortable doing. Sometimes you want to talk a bit first and meet somebody, and that's cool too. But all right, and if you're an existing NMRA member and you want to get involved, I keep saying it. I keep sent it out in the dispatch last week. I send it out. I say it all the time. Just drop us an email, and tell us what you're passionate about, and we will connect you to the right people, when we will help your passion become a reality.
We're out of network time. We're out of network
time.
Okay, so if you go to nmra.org and then you go to you scroll across to the right and click on contact, and up comes officers' addresses, the president, vice president, there's a whole bunch of addresses on there, and all you got to do is click on that at one of those addresses, and you can send an email right away. Boom. I could even put something on the website, contact the president of the NMRA right here. Okay, Bruce, speaking of contacting us, can you give out our email address?
Yes, drop us a line. We love your emails. Modelers Life, that's modelers with one L, modelers@gmail.com.
And if you go to our website, John, I'm assuming you check our website pretty regularly, eh?
I just have it. I have it here as a bookmark. I'm on it constantly.
Oh, okay, good. And if you go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and you just click on a picture of Bruce, the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, boom, you won't even need the address. All you got to do is fill in your subject and your text, and you can send an email that way. And we love getting emails. And John, have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
I'm not sure I've thought about that.
Okay. Do you need time to think about it, or you want me to just tell you how you can get one?
Please tell me how I can get one.
Well, if you go to Midwest Model Railroad, their website is midwestmodelrr.com. And they are a huge hobby shop in Independence, Missouri, just outside of Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City. Anyway, it's the home of the Harry Truman Presidential Library. And you go to their website and you scroll across there. The what do you call it, Bruce? The bar. What do I call it?
Oh, the menu bar at the top.
Yeah, the menu bar at the top, and all the way to the right. And click on AML. Boom! You are in a wonderland of AML merchandise: hats, hoodies, mugs, T-shirts, and in there you can get a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
Excellent.
Yeah, which everybody should have. I think
we got to get them to get the mugs with the hot dog on them. That's
yeah. We got to get working on that. We got to get a staff.
Because I'd love a mug with a hot dog on it.
Me too. We got to get
who wouldn't, you know?
We need a staff. One day I'd like to have something. We can't. We'll do it. Well, someday we'll do it. I would love to be able to somehow make the people, all the members of the NMRA, aware of the podcast. I think a lot of people don't even know that it exists. I think that's it. Oh yeah. And John, I'm assuming you've listened to all the podcasts and some of them twice.
Still working on a few of them. But I am a Patreon member now.
I know you are.
A whole new list of them to get through.
I know, exactly. So if you enjoyed, this is on the free channel, and if you enjoyed this, and if you'd like twice as much podcasting every week, all you got to do is click on our link for Patreon, and for just 365 payments of 16 cents a day, boom, you can have twice as much podcasting. And our Patreon channel is referred to as the Antics channel. Our buddy Kaylee Zane came up with that, and she calls it the Antics channel. And you can hear lots from Uncle Dave and our viewer mail and our fans page. We talk our fans, and we got a regular crew of guys over there and all kinds of neat stuff. And I think that's it, Bruce. I think we got her all covered.
I think we got her all wrapped up, man.
John, are you ready?
For what?
What do you think?
Just nod and say yes, John.
What do you think, Bruce? How do you think this is going to go?
Ooh, 30-70?
Yeah, what do you think, Gordy?
I have no idea.
There you go. There you go.
Well, apparently
the odds, I just have no clue.
Yeah, apparently the president of the NMRA and one of the board members is right on the ball. All right, get ready, John.
All right.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
crazy, contrarian, dreamers, and doers.
Modeler's Life is sponsored by Because I Love Sushi. You could love any old sushi, but would it love you back?
It's another Lincoln Homer.
That was perfect. You were right on the money, buddy. You followed along the bouncing ball and picked it up right there.